Thank you. That was an interesting loop. Yeah, so that tune's called Alert. And that one, so I need to look at the album to know what each of the tunes are about. I don't even know. But anyway, I know this one. This is Alert, and that was written for the workers at the Woolly Jars.
To us all, and I'm sure to audiences across Manchester, that couldn't happen. However, I am graced as some kind of also say with the presence of the trumpet maestro himself, the king of the conch, as we've just heard. It's Byron Wallen, live from Byron's Den. And hello, Byron. How are you? You okay?
Hello, Steve. It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to see where you're hanging out as well. You've got quite a
and
den.
thank you once more for inviting me to your beautiful festival. And you know, I think this is only a temporary hold up.
Yeah.
I think that's the way we need to look at this. You know,
absolutely.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Well, you were on a huge tour. You were just about to embark. Well, I think you've done a few dates, and you were about to kind of spread across the country with this project and this band, because you just did I think you did the launch gig at Pizza Express in February or something like that, didn't you?
That's correct. It was one of those situations where, you know, it's been 13 years since I've since I've released an album, and the time I do release an album, firstly the launch on the day of the launch there was a bomb scare in Soho, which meant that we had to change our destination from Soho Dean Street to Soho Holborn.
On Holborn, yeah.
Which was lucky that that they had two venues, but it was really one of those ones where you thought, oh, it's through everything, because we had like filming set up at the Soho. We had all the special situations happening, and we had to change everything. But we managed to make it happen.
Yeah, and the audience came with you. Obviously, they kind of just migrated across.
They did.
Sounds
thanks,
like that.
Thanks to my agent, Ina, who managed to make such a great tour happen. And now we're just trying to put it all back in together.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, well, yeah, as everyone is, isn't it? What have you been up to, Byron, during sort of lockdown? Apart from like everyone growing your hair a little bit, what have you been doing? Anything kind of especially interesting, music, or you've been doing some teaching or writing?
I'm really very happy with my own company. And really it's really creative incubation time. So I've been working a lot on composition. I've been looking at stuff I had before, and looking at how I'm going to release that, and how to present things really. And as well as that, just been really getting into things I've always wanted to get into, getting back into my astrology.
Oh, wow.
And also really having time to reflect on this at this time about what my life and what life is really about. So I think hopefully trying to use this time as a real kind of meditation, and a time of reflection, and to make sure that going forward, life is at a higher level.
Yeah, it's really interesting, because talking to a few musicians during this period, what's come through a lot is there's, although the time we're going through has been imposed by great sadness and illness and all sorts of things, there's been a kind of spirituality which has emerged, which I think people really ought to preserve afterwards, don't they? And especially that, I mean, that's been articulated a lot by artists, as you'd expect, because they are the kind of voice or the kind of mouthpiece of the society that they kind of occupy. So is that something you've also kind of picked up on, and you've got a wish for continuing?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think, there's a tendency in our community, people who love art, people who love and respect creation and communication. We are, I'm not everyone is like us.
Yeah.
So I think, and we can
There's no
see
one
that.
like you, Byron. Absolutely.
Well,
One in a kind.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? So I mean, I
Yeah.
think politically and socially, economically, we're, everyone is coming from a different place. But I think what's unique about this situation is that everyone suddenly is in the same situation, and
Yeah.
and it's, the thing that we're scared about, or the thing that is, is causing havoc, doesn't have any discrimination, in the sense of it can
Yeah.
be anybody.
Yeah.
And so I think this situation of all being together in some way, but being connected by this amazing technology that we have,
Yeah.
is a unique time in history, because it's never happened before.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I really do hope that we can continue and keep the spirit of
Yeah.
what it means to be alive and part of a community, even though we're not able to you know be together as we would like.
Absolutely. And I mean, you just kind of mentioned there that spirit, and I think that turning to your current project, that sense of spirit is prevalent in this particular project of yours, isn't it? It's called Portrait,
Mm.
Reflections on Belonging, and it struck me as it's not just a self portrait.
No.
It's a kind of a portrait looking out as well, and that kind of sense of place about where you are, where you're from, and how that's changed around you. That's come through as the kind of
Mm.
not just the motivation, but that the inspiring spirit behind the music. And but it's obviously been so powerful for you because you've turned it into an art. You've turned it into something to share with us all. And this kind of transformation of your geography and history
Mm.
into music must have
Mm.
been quite a fascinating one for you to tackle.
Mm. Yes, Steve. Because I mean, the thing about it is that as a musician, I've always generally done most of my work far afield.
Yeah,
Um, Generally, not even England.
yeah,
Mostly Europe, and touring with different groups and doing projects, teaching projects, which have been far afield. And I remember once I was being called. I was called by uh, one of the arts organizers of
yeah.
Plumcroft School,
Oh,
Sophie Nichol, and she called me to do a project in Plumcroft, which was literally 10 minutes away from where I lived, and it was a situation where the 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 trumpeter who was going to be doing it was Abraham Lincoln.
oh,
Abraham
wow,
Lincoln.
yes,
Sorry,
yeah.
you got to
I,
Abraham Wilson. Sorry,
Abram Wilson, yeah,
you got to
yeah,
edit that out.
yeah,
So Abraham
yeah.
Wilson was supposed to be doing it, and he got sick very very quickly,
Mm,
and as we know, passed away.
yeah,
So I then took over and started to work at this school, which was an incredible school, Plumcroft School. They really kind of value music, dance, and all the arts. And it's one of these kind of schools where you walk in there and you just feel the love from all the children and the teachers. And they remember your name. They say, "Oh, hi, Byron, how you doing?" And it's just such a lovely place. And we managed to um, work on projects that were over, that happened in different terms. Some were history projects, some were to do with culture and ancestry and background, and then we did some other things which were more um, directly about art and music, and so it was really an eye opener, and it was such a unique experience to be working in my close community. And I remember the feeling of that, and I thought, well, this is incredible. I need to do more of this. So then I started working at some other schools and academies closer. And then at that point in time, I would also started working at Trinity College, which is literally just down the road in Greenwich. So, and then I saw the way that I could bring these, these places together, primary, secondary, and further education, bringing all these pupils together in different ways, and use the music to bring them together, and actually also bring in other art forms. So we had choreographers who choreographed music to the dance, and actually the pre-launch of the album was at Plumcroft School, and they did a dance to the music that I wrote, which is I think it's Isaac Stewart choreographed that. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it was. So it's been a real journey, really.
Yeah.
Also just that whole thing of seeing things right in front of you, and always, and you don't actually or often think that what you see in front of you is as kind of valuable or as special as something that you're looking for far away, and I think that's it's a bit of a metaphor, really.
Exactly what we find along the journey, isn't it? Yeah.
So actually the choreographer was Tyrone Isaac Stewart. That's his name.
Yeah. Okay. And so that all became material for this project. The kind of the band, well, your band Four Corners, which we've seen at the beginning of the program, but we'll talk about the band members later. But I suppose you envisaged this project then for this band, this particular quartet.
Yeah. Well, the way it came about was in PR. I applied for a commission from the PRS, where you put different ideas of what you wanted to do. So I put this idea of a commission called Anthem for Woolwich.
Yeah.
And I thought, what was really important was to pay homage to the place where my adopted home. I'm originally from Tottenham, so I'm not born and raised here.
Yeah.
But because I've been here since 1998, and I'm seen the changes, and really, I mean, it's a complete anti Brexit story, because just seeing the way that different communities have come into this place, and it's completely changed everything, and it's made it much more in a way, it's made it much more diverse in a way of communication and peoples, and the types of foods that are coming now, the shops that are coming in now, and just the languages, and it just feels so much more part of feels like the whole world here.
More real. Yes.
Yeah.
So do you think you're telling the story of the place through people then? You're actually reflecting the people that are kind of now around in this area and around you.
Definitely, it's about the people, and it's also about the history, because I think the history of Woolwich with the Woolwich Arsenal and the artillery, and it was such a big commercial place in terms of and in terms of what they were doing in terms of developing artillery, but also the other things that the spin-offs of that meant that a lot of people were employed here, and then as things died down with that, it became something different, and then we've got the Thamesmead, which is just up the road there, which was another kind of social experiment where they just started taking people there. I mean, it's just so much of a history, and I think as I got into it, ideas came in which gave me the idea of the songs. Because, like, for instance, Alert was written for the workers at the Woolwich Arsenal. So, and actually, when you can when you hear the sound of it's not a conch shell, it's called a sacred shank.
Oh, thank you for correcting me there, Byron. That's
amazing.
That's
all right.
Yeah.
I love my shells. So this shell is predominantly in the Indian Ocean, and you can find it in India as well. And it's a very, very hard metal, and it's and the sound of it. I mean, they use it in Tibet, which there's a big Tibetan community here, and they also where they use it in the monasteries and stuff like that. And the idea of it is it's a call, and the sound of it. Let me step back.
Yeah, go
from the
for
mic.
it.
I'll give you a sound.
Let's hear it.
So you can hear it's really it's very much like a trumpet.
It is incredible. I think most people listening would, if they had their eyes shut, would have thought that was a trumpet.
Yeah.
So and is that your voice, or is that what they sound like naturally? If anyone tried to play that, would they come up with that similar sound, or is that you being a trumpet player?
That's me being a trumpet player, and in the way I envisage the sound. But I mean, the thing, once you make it into a trumpet, it will have that family of sound, and then you can have different pitches. I've got different sizes, so that particular alert was about this very bright, and it was like that call of wow, let's be mindful of what's happening here, because obviously if you're producing weapons, you need to be very alert and mindful about what you're doing with these things, and also just thinking in the current time, just how we need to be more alert than ever, in the sense of what's happening, and is as we know that this is a global catastrophe, but there will be people who will be economically profiting from this. So and so we need to be very alert about what's happening and how we protect our community.
That's like a call to action, then, isn't it? For everyone.
So it's actually quite relevant for this situation.
Great, isn't it? Well, it's amazing how music always seems to be relevant in whatever time it's in. You can always kind of find that relevance, through something abstract like music. How it's really, really kind of potential to speak to any generation at any time, isn't it? Really, yeah. And so those shells that you've been using, how did you come across those then, Byron? And was that an accident, a discovery, or was it intentional that you wanted to use a natural object like that to kind of articulate some of your ideas?
Well, it's for at least 30 years I've been playing them. So, and I've got a big collection. I mean,
wow.
This one, I'm going to show you this one.
That's incredible.
This is my Baylor shell.
Wow.
So you can see it's quite massive.
That's incredible.
And so it's quite a mad instrument. But I really got into it by I listen to a lot of traditional music, and there are cultures that use shells in terms of their music, especially in Samoa and in places where they use the shells to cool, like in Tibet and this kind of places, but also places where they use the music to they use it as part of the musical ensemble, actually in Belize and places like that they use it. And then I saw Steve Turre, who's the
trombone player,
the great trombone player, who actually was playing with Roland Kirk, and Roland Kirk told him about the shells and say, yeah, you need to play the shells, and then he started getting into shells, and then he made some amazing albums with the shells, and I got a chance to meet him as well, actually, when I was blessed to play with McCoy Tyner. And he was with him, McCoy Tyner, and we talked a bit about the shells and about how he got into it. And the thing is that it's you feel the voice and the spirituality of the animal when you're playing it, and it's the sound is something that really made me excited, because it's got that kind of sound that doesn't start and doesn't finish. So it's kind of it just really, so for me it's it's really my voice, really, the shells.
And it's quite, because you haven't got that range of notes that you have like in a lot of other instruments. In a way, you're kind of, I'll say restricted, but I don't mean restricted, but you're limited to a fixed, I don't know, probably what you might call it, a harmonic series or something, or a couple of notes on each particular shell that you use.
That's right.
So the focus, instead of like flurrying around on notes all over the place, you're focusing on expression and just using the bare minimum of note variations, aren't you? So the whole focus changes in a way, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Less is more, definitely.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, so what you need to do in terms, if you're going to, so firstly, the melodies, become focused for that shell. So what I did was I used to go to the woods just around the corner and take each day, go with one shell, and then I would work out some melodies that I liked in the woods, and if I played them, and if the nightingale would sing back to, I knew I had a good tune, So I'd like just work on it, and then it's like once you have the melody, you can distribute it amongst other shells as well. So within each family, I've got at least 10 or 12 shells. So I can have a family. I can make the pitches of at least, within a fifth above and below generally of the note. And then obviously you've got the harmonic series as well, which you can play on the.
So they're all in tune with each other, the ones that you would choose.
Well, they have a similar sound. So like for instance, this sound would, so this one. So it's a similar tone, even though it's a different note. And then you change the pitch with your hands. So it's and then other shells have got different openings, so they've got more a bigger aperture, so you can actually make a bigger range of notes. But so I've been exploring that for the last at least 30 years now.
Amazing. That's incredible. Have you found any like new shells that maybe no one's used as an instrument before? Or any that you've made your own, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I mean, pretty much all these ones I've made myself. I've cut them myself, and because you got them generally from shell makers, or they're not really, you can't really find them on the local beach.
No.
But in Mexico I picked up quite a few, and in Indonesia I picked up a lot, because you had those shops there, and really generally the ones that work have got a certain shape, because you have to be able to put your mouth to them, and then the aperture needs to be quite big, so that you can at least change the pitches a little bit. So they all have their own voice and their own particular approach. You need to approach them differently.
And you always play them live as well within your set, and you kind of integrate the your performances with playing a trumpet as well, which we haven't even talked about yet, which is fine. And I wonder how you choose what piece is suitable for a trumpet and what comes from the shell, and is that informed by anything, I don't know, within the composition or the feel or the spur of the moment? Do you swap? Do you play sometimes a tune in trumpet and sometimes use
sometimes it's both, because I mean, I think it's an instrument, so it's one of those things where you bring what's right for the tonal color, what's right for the vibe of the song. So and also what you can manage to play within that instrument. So the shell tunes are generally there's parts of tunes maybe that have shells on them, and maybe if the genesis of the idea, as in alert and and the fairy shell, these ones came from the shell, so the shell is the featured one. But it's also a thing of trying to, within the set, work out how I'm going to approach the instruments, and putting the shell ones in the right strategic point in the set, that for the to make a good performance, but also to keep the chops happening, you know, because I think that it's a slightly different embouchure, and it, you know, if you have a lot of shell stuff, and then go to switch directly to the trumpet, sometimes that can be quite difficult. So it's just also pacing it and you know, pacing and scheduling.
And I wonder also, how do your, I suppose, your bandmates, how do they respond to having a shell in the band? What does that?
But I remember thinking, wow, you know, these guys are just sitting there, you know, and I remember, and they all love the sound of the shell, so it's beautiful. But you know, it's that thing of when people are then being involved, it's another type of love, you know. So I think when we started to do it as you saw in the video, when it started to become more of a group effort, I think it took on its own life, and then it was more about negotiating the technology along with the band, because obviously I'm setting up a loop, so the loop is kind of rigid in a certain way once you've started that up, but then making it so that everyone can still have space to do their thing. And then so at a certain point I take the loop out, because you know that kind of becomes a bit too restrictive. So then by then we're into something else. So every time we do that piece, it goes another way, you know. So it's also that thing of, this is just the cell of the idea, but then the idea can then become whatever it's going to become that night.
Yeah. And how do audiences respond to that as well? I mean, some people who know you might be expecting it anyway to hear it, but there's always going to be new audiences who come see music.
Yeah, but generally people come up afterwards and they say they've never seen that before, and they're mad about it and they love it. And I said, well, yep, it's on the album.
Which we should point people to as well. We'll have some kind of flag to your album as well at the end of this. But but also the kind of the way the band are dealing with that sound, and how you the compositions that you bring to the band, and including the shell and also your trumpet. I'm just also really interested in how you made the pieces for that ensemble, you know, including your trumpet playing and the shells. What is it also about those players that you chose as well, Rob?
It's very much about the
Rod
players
and Paul. Yeah.
Yes, definitely much. I mean, so the thing is, I mean, I think what's interesting is that I've always loved to play in groups, and I love to have an ensemble where we, you know, grow together and we try different music and play in different settings. So back in 2002, I had, you know, the band Indigo, which we'll talk about later when we talk about Silent Praise. But you know, that was the same situation where we got together and worked on music over years and time. So Four Corners has been together really since 2000 and I shouldn't really know the numbers. I'll think about it. I think it's at least 2006.
Wow. Yeah.
So, you know, it's been a while, and it originally started, and on bass I had Theon Cross, the tuba player, you know, and so the idea was, it was tuba, trumpet, guitar, and drums. And you know, there's just because the tuba was really the sound of the earth. The guitar was kind of the sound of the air. The fire was coming from the drums. You know, and I was the element of water. So so that's why the Four Corners came about, because it was like the four elements, the four corners, and my interest of music from all over the world was part of that, and also bringing different eras of music. So I'm fascinated by Renaissance music, and you know, music of core music, people like William Byrd and so that's really important to me. But then also, you know, I love the music of Thelonious Monk, and I love the music of all, you know, of the Central African Bayaka Pygmy people, and then I love the music of funk, and you know, James Brown, and then recently, you know, getting more interested in music like Bill Frisell and people like that, you know, so I think that the idea of these four people and those instruments was to bring all those elements together, you know. And then when Paul Michael came in, you know, on bass, he brought something else as well, you know, with his fretless and fretted bass and his sensitivity, you know, and you know, Rob Lofter is such a generous musician, and his passion for music is infectious, you know, and I think I really loved that about him from the first time I met him. And you know, it was just like I think we did like a session at Oliver's, a jam session. And he was just so in love with what he was doing, you know, and the music. I thought, wow, this guy is incredible, and he was really young. I was like, wow, you know, and so talented. So you know, we worked together and kept on working. And then Rod Youngs on drums. You know, he's a phenomenal musician and very sensitive. And you know, we explore different types of music, and especially different types of calypso and the origins of certain rhythms, and really kind of took them apart and found different grooves within those. So that was a big part of the development of the music that's on the album, because it was, you know, the tunes were written. A lot of those tunes were written for that commission, which was back. I need to know the dates. I can't think of the date now, but it was a while ago when we did, you know, did the commission, and it was all, you know, written on scored out, you know. So then we then things up and made things much more organic. Working on.
Well, this is good. This is really unusual about commissioned work, especially in jazz, because perhaps in more contemporary classical music, commissions, you know, they have a premiere. If they're lucky, they get a second performance, third performance. So when you're approaching commissions in jazz, and the input of the musicians is so integral as well as the composition. But what I find really interesting is actually how the musicians and the composers, like yourself, enable the music to live on through other kind of gigs, through other bands, and the material itself lives by changing, you know. And you bring with each new set of musicians, you think, oh, I'll bring that piece from that commission 20 years ago. You know, it was something else then, but now I can turn it into something else, and still the piece is alive and changing and evolving.
So much so, Steve. I mean, the thing is that is one of the things, you know, at Trinity, where I teach composition. We really think about, you know, what is composition, and the essence of what you're doing when you're writing music. I think in the jazz world, the role of the player is definitely elevated, because, you know, you write music with people in mind. It's not just for a flute, or it's not just for, you know, for a bass. It's for that, you know, it's for Paul, it's for, you know, it's for Roland, it's for whoever it is. It's for specific people who you can actually hear, just the same way, you know, Duke Ellington and wrote for specific players, and you can hear that in the melodies, that, you know, it was what the people bring to that performance that makes it so timeless. So I mean, and also those things with the commissions, and for me, it's just a way of bringing the band together in a different way. So so like last year we did a piece at the Brighton Festival, which was called Eye to Eye, which was a commission. That was another commission, and it was a joint commission between myself and Howard Skempton, the choral composer. So we wrote a piece called Eye to Eye, and it was the project was led by Sheila Hill, who's she wrote the lyrics and, you know, conceived of this project, which was about her son Billy, and about how his formation from you know, from pre-birth till the age of 5. So the music took all of that, you know, all of that time span in, and all the things and observations that she had. So within the band, so I had the band Four Corners were there, and we had a 100-piece choir.
Wow.
with Glyndebourne. Yeah.
Well, that's not very often you get that opportunity, is it?
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it
Yeah.
brought us together in a different kind of way, and we, the sensitivity of having to play,
Mm.
even though we didn't play at the same time as the choir, but we had
Mm.
elements where the music came in, and because the choir were telling the narrative of the story as well.
Yeah.
So that was happening, and then similarly, we were about to embark on a situation at the Young Vic, where we were going to play the music of another commissioned work, which was a conundrum,
Mm.
and Crying in the Wilderness, which is a theatre production,
Yeah.
had come up with this conundrum play, which is about an autistic boy from London, and how he deals with life, and how he kind of negotiates the different conundrums, and the different paradoxes within the community, and life, and what you need to do to stay alive.
Mm. And do you use the trumpet in composition? Do you use that as a kind of means, or do you write in your head or at keyboard? And how do you kind of involve your instrument in composition, if at all?
Well, I mean, I think the thing is I think about music as something that is inside, inside me, and everywhere, and then the instrument, becomes is an extension of that.
Yeah.
So for me, I really do spend a lot of time singing, and just kind of making notes on my dictaphone or on my phone of different rhythms and different things that come into my mind. Then I also have time where I spend sitting at the piano and work on, I guess, colors and chordal, which often give me start with
Textures and
composition. Yeah, just that whole idea of just trying to come to sounds, get to sounds, and as as Duke Ellington says, noodles, so you're just noodling, and you come up with things. And then also, I try to spend time each day just playing, and just so I'll just put the tape recorder on and just play for 10 minutes, and
Which is
just see what comes
great.
out.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. And there's that spirit of being in the moment as well. Just, perhaps at the moment when we're in lockdown, harder to explore because you're on your own. So you're just reacting to yourself. But that's, and a lot of people do that. You've been holding that wonderful trumpet of yours, Byron, for about 10 minutes now. And I think everyone's dying to hear something come out of your mouth.
I don't know what I'm going to play on it. It'll come.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the other thing I wanted to ask you about was your trumpet itself, because it's such an I don't play the trumpet or anything. I don't know anything about them, but I love them, and I can see that that's a very unusual looking instrument. And the way it's kind of the tubes are kind of bent, and it's got kind of bridge pieces. What is it that's special about that trumpet? What makes that different from what might be called a normal trumpet?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Actually, I could do some. I can show you this. But I mean, this is a lovely trumpet which is made by Taylor Trumpets in Norwich. And what I love about the horn is that it's got a certain weight to it. So when you lift it up, it's like you feel like you've got something, And the sound of the instrument is very resonant and dark. So like something like. It's got that kind of very round sound, which I really love. I mean, also I think it's a bit of a workout. So I think in this lockdown period, it's nice to have a challenge. So I feel it really blends as well with the rest of the group. You know, I think there's different. I've got various trumpets, but some
Yeah.
trumpets work better in different ensembles. So if I'm in a group ensemble where I'm playing with other trumpets, I probably wouldn't use that one.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
if I'm the solo voice
Yeah.
and that's my voice, then I
Yeah.
probably would use that trumpet.
That is
Yeah.
the Byron horn. That's the
Yeah,
one. That's
it's
you.
my go-to horn. That's my
Yeah.
go-to horn.
Yeah. And so that's the instrument that you've probably chosen to make the sound of your voice in this portrait, the kind of Reflections on Belonging project. That's the sound of you, as well as the shells that we were talking about earlier. That's the sound that we kind of iron coming out through that instrument there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because I think the sound, sound is a very subjective thing, but I think really the sound is in you. I always say that, and it's that thing of, I remember that time, when I sat in with Freddie Hubbard, the great master, and I remember I just got this horn at that time. And I was like, yeah, really into this horn. And then I was like, yeah, I'm sitting in with Freddie Hubbard. And I remember there's I've got a photo of me, offering him the trumpet, to play. And then he looked at me and he said, I don't need it. I remember that, and I was thinking, yeah. But really, it's that thing of, if you got a sound, whatever trumpet you play, you're gonna sound like you. It's just that some trumpets enable you to do that easier than others,
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to ask you at the beginning, we just got straight into chatting, was how did the trumpet discover you?
Oh, good. Great
way
question.
Back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that when I play it back, I was really, the first real passion I had was the euphonium, which is the baby tuba. And I was in the boys brigade, and they gave me this instrument to play. I didn't want it. I really didn't want it, because it was heavy, and it never played the tune. And I was like, you know what? But somehow, by playing that instrument, it really gave me an introduction to what the magic of music, and about how to blend with other instruments, how to support, how to, and then the instrument itself was quite, you held it really close, and you felt the vibration of the air through the instrument, and it was really amazing. And I remember going to, there was a competition in the boys brigade where they did, there's a whole day of competition where you did athletics, you did like things like gymnastics and stuff like that. And I wasn't that great at gymnastics, and one of the one of the competitions was the pommel horse.
Oh.
Yeah, and I was on the pommel horse, and I did this pommel, and I really didn't want to do it, but we had to do it. So, so it was, I jumped onto the pommel horse, did the whole, the somersault. But then as I landed on the pommel horse and pushed myself off, I whacked my head on the top of the pommel horse. And I remember that I had a bulb, such a big a ball on my head, from this pommel horse. And it was, so I was unconscious for a little while.
Wow.
And then I remember coming to and seeing lots of people looking at me and saying, oh, you're right. And I was really in pain. At the end of it, they said, that obviously they said, oh, you can't do, obviously you don't have to perform on the music thing after this. But I said, you know what, I want to do it. Yeah. And this moment was really my moment of,
wow,
this is the thing, because I've started playing this instrument, and my head was hurting so much, and every time I was blowing, it was so hurting. But in a way, I just thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take all this pain and all this trauma, I'm going to just put it into this euphonium, and I'm going to make the music with this. And then I did. And then I remember people were running up to me and they said, Byron, you've never played that before. Wow, what's happened? What's happened to you? And then, you know, at the end of it, I won this competition. I was like, yeah, there's something in this. I thought, you know, this is like a baptism of fire into this music world. And then from there, I got into, you know, more into music. And then I think also just as I listened to more music, I heard Louis Armstrong, which was a big influence. Just seeing his persona and you know, larger than life way of communicating, and you know, just so full of love and energy. And I just really thought, wow, what's he doing? And then at the same point, I remember my sister Erilyn gave me. She got me a record for my birthday, and it was a record for the great trumpeter Maurice Andre. And he was doing, I think he was doing the Hummel and the Haydn, you know. And I remember hearing that instrument and thinking, wow, this is so angelic. And then thinking, wow, this is him, this is Louis. They're playing the same instrument. How different can you get? You know, yet it's the same thing. And I thought, well, this is definitely the instrument that I'm drawn to, you know, from the sound. And then later on, you know, listening to Miles Davis, that was a big influence as well. And the sound of the muted trumpet and the way that you can make all these different sounds within one horn. So really, I think I went from the euphonium then onto the trumpet at that point.
And it's so interesting talking that you almost discovered it through resistance, you know, resistance to pain, but that you're using the music as a way through the pain, but also kind of probably expressing the pain as well at the same time. And that enabled your discovery into what sounds like, you know, your musical career then at that early age. It's really amazing how so many people have one really early memory, which can be something peculiar like that, you and the pommel horse in the gym, and it suddenly, when you look back years later, you kind of think that actually caused me to be a musician or an artist. And
it was a big time, point, you know, and I think I was 11 or 12 maybe at that time, and it was a big thing. And then later on, I remember going to there was a big performance of it was an anti-apartheid concert, which was in central London somewhere. And I remember going there and just seeing all these artists from all the places, and you know, working and do their performance, and I was thinking, wow, this is incredible that music can be such a powerful tool of expressing unity, you know, and I felt that for myself as one of these ones as a child, just really absorbing the power of music. And another one was going to see Weather Report. I think that was another big.
Wow.
I remember going to see Weather Report, and this was must have been mid 80s. So I was, or maybe just early 80s, and just seeing again, you know, this whole magical arena of creation, and seeing music can really be so different, but be so powerful, you know. So
absolutely, and that all those influences, I can hear kind of how you're talking, have all come together with this current band, and just bring it back up to the present, and Four Corners and project that you would have been playing with now as we speak. They're all there in the background, aren't they? You know, everything from the Pommel Horse to the Weather Report gig, they're all kind of hanging around in the back of your musical psyche, and I think kind of you're making sure that they're, you know, you're not forgetting them. They all have their own place and their own resonance, don't they? And yet,
definitely,
what you're involved in now, which is, you know, the latest project, which is an amazing articulation of like the history and the current as well, which is itself really interesting. And great. Well, Byron, we should wrap up, because we could talk for hours and hours. And thank you so much, Byron, for chatting to us. What we're going to do, we're going to round up with another listen to one of the tracks that you performed at the launch, which was at Peaks Express back in February. from the current album. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this, if you like, you want to introduce it? Because we're going to have a listen to a track called Silent Praise, which is one of the tracks featured on the album, I believe. Was
So really, that tune was part of the Indigo album in 2002. It's a very special time in my life where, you know, it was 4 musicians who really gave so much to this project. You know, they used to come around to my house and we used to literally rehearse every week, and we didn't have gigs. We just rehearsed just to get music together. And I remember we had then we had this week of gigs in Brixton, and we kind of worked the material out even more. And then we started doing gigs, and then we recorded, and we actually recorded the album right here in this room that you're looking at here, which was another crazy trip. But you know, and I think again it was like this the music. It was a different process because I was, even though I wrote the music down and it was all kind of on my sequencer, I didn't give music to anybody. We all kind of, everything was learned by ear. And I think that's it's a different approach to learning, and one that obviously needs more time, but we had the time then. You know, it's a different time in our lives. And you know, and the idea of the album was different time signatures and different ways of moving and different grooves and different you know, different perspectives on time. So this one, you know, the Silent Praise, I think it's in 10. So I was just really thinking, so the idea was to have things were in different times, but somehow they wouldn't feel like they were in a different time. So you know, it would feel like a get into the swing of it, so it becomes natural. Because, you know, I mean, we feel music mostly in 4 over here, but you know, there's different cultures have different time signatures that they have. You know, obviously 6, and there's cultures that have 5. You know, and all the tunes are in 5, all the tunes are in 6, all the tunes are in 3, all the tunes are, and so, you know, just kind of by listening to that and dancing with different musics to feel where that pulse and where that groove really feels is really what this tune is about. So you've got that bass line, and then you've got the counterpoint between the 2 lines. So you've got that, you know, interaction of the two main voices that are coming together with the polyphonic melody. Yeah, I love that tune.
That's great. Well, let's hear it in action, Byron. And another great example of how, you know, your composition can live on, you know, 20 years later, or almost 20 years later, in a totally different form, but still be, you know, the wonderful creation that you brought into the world as well. So yes, thanks so much, Byron, for your time. We're all really looking forward to the time when we can see you live in a theatre or a club. Let's hope that's very soon, very soon.
We're going to now go back in time to 2002, and we're going to do a nice meditative, chilled out number, we hope. And this one is entitled Silent Praise, and it's from the album Indigo. Yes. Silent praise.
My name's Wes Haydock, and I was a volunteer photographer for Manchester Jazz Festival for the last couple of years. The first gig I did was probably the most memorable. It was Band on the Wall, and it featured Binker and Moses, the saxophonist and drummer, who've made a real name for themselves since. Manchester Jazz Festival is a very innovative festival. It's not afraid to experiment, it's not afraid to bring in new forms of jazz. It's an extremely enjoyable festival.
Byron Wallen's band, Four Corners. And, I think it's really clear how Byron has a sound that it's very strong. It has claws to it. I always think about his sound. There's lots of ways that you can play trumpet. It's one of my favorite instruments. And I always feel he's got that slight little edge in and push in what he does, and a super lineup in there. What's coming up next, Steve?
Next, we have some live music.
Start to the day.
Live music is what it's all about, wherever possible. I'm delighted to introduce someone who is going to be playing at MJF this year. Sadly, obviously, none of those gigs can happen. Please do try and support artists wherever you can. If you want to buy any CDs or online kind of music, absolutely, they need your help more than ever. So do kind of search these artists out that featured in the festival afterwards and check them out and see where you can help them out by investing in their music. But for the next hour, I'm hoping that we can go live over to perhaps the I don't know whether it's the living room or the patio or the garden.
Making the flagpoles bow on a windy day. There is no such word as end, she says, as she decorates her problems on the runway, as she decorates her manners on the pathway, singing and I, and I, and I, and I, and I, and I. She's a symbol of nobility, privileged enough to drive into a world, and count her riches and count her wishes, and reach the gateway of her carousel. She can lose her dignity to Sicilian farmers who drink lemonade. She's alone in the dark, seeing nothing but her mystery. Lightness absorbs her senses, sitting cross-legged on a track. No platform to attack, no castle to protect her. Just a desperate hours that'll mend her, 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 that'll mend her. Ooh, whoa. Hello, good afternoon, Manchester Jazz Festival. God, what an amazing day it is to play in the sunshine and with my Sicilian cap on. My name is Ben Cipolla and I've just moved to Manchester actually. Usually I'll be bagging up beans at Ancoats Coffee. Yes, represent. They're still actually roasting in this time of uncertainty, so if anyone fancies a few coffee beans, then type in Ancoats Coffee online. I'm sure you can place your order. But yeah, otherwise I write my own songs and I try and play as often as I can really, and I'd just like to thank Manchester Jazz Festival for having me this weekend, and I'm going to be playing a lot of my own songs that are inspired from Sicily, which is where my roots are, from the dad's side of the family, yeah. And couldn't be a better environment, really. It feels like I'm in Sicily at the moment, and I'm gonna hopefully take you there with a few of these songs. That song was called Enna, which was inspired by a mystery woman that I made up, and the next song is named after an Airbnb that's in Pozzallo, which is the south of Sicily. I promised the owners that I'd write a song about their amazing Airbnb house, which is about €30 a night. So yeah, if you fancy writing a review for them, then you type in Casa Scilocco, which is this song right here. Those words, did you really mean them? 'Cause I felt the same in that moment. Now I'm sold by what you wanna wear. The yellow and red make me stare like a mannequin. I feel at home when nobody's in. Apart from yours this evening, we spent so many hours talking all night about how we met. Just like Porgy and Bess, we would walk around the water fountain in Seattle. That's where it all came flowing out from within. I'm happy in my skin. I just wanna live with you. I'm happy in my skin. I just wanna live with you. No, next thing you know, we're dancing in another country around the kitchen. The white walls and the echoes sing a Shilako lullaby. We'll find it hard to say goodbye to this island tomorrow. We'll pack our favorite food. It won't be hard to choose, because I feel so good. I'm happy in my skin. Oh, I just wanna dance with you. I'm happy in my skin. I just wanna dance. I just wanna dance with you. I'm happy in my skin now, 'cause I just wanna dance with you. I'm happy in my skin now, 'cause I just wanna dance with you. Happy in my skin. I just wanna live. I'm happy in my skin. I just wanna live. Yeah, so that was Shiloko, and I actually wrote that just before I moved to Manchester, which, the song was just being about in the most amazing relationship, which I am, and live with my dear Eleanor, who's probably watching, and has also made me a nice little ice bath for my feet, as it's a bit hot now, so I'm just going to oh yeah, that's nice, there we go. Feels slightly cooler now. Yeah, so another place where we explored is this amazing town called Gela, like gelato, which is ice cream, and yeah, it was quite a funny journey because we just got this bus straight to Gela and this train on the way back that took about 3-4 hours to get to our next destination. So I try to represent the sort of train chug noise in this song, which I'll play on the guitar for you. And it goes a little bit like this. Right above the tidal wave, and soldier on in the human race. They're on the run from being loved, 'cause in their head they know what's best, not to get involved, problems that aren't solved. Not finding energy when they need to make a run when the sun overheats their childhood dreams. Oh, they say it's like living out in Africa, or tired of sitting in the shade. Throw their voices out into the plastic beach to be heard, but they seem to be out of thoughts and out of touch every day. Every day now. Ooh, oh, every day. Every day now. Ooh, play your cards in the game. Ooh, so you can land on the ace of spades. Ooh, so you can dig beneath the sand and understand it's not all over. Before Lady Madonna sings, yeah, before the politicians ring, breaking up all the promises and giving you one more shot. Make a run for your lives instead of being blinded by the sunlight. Oh, they say it's like living out in Africa, or tired of sitting in the shade. Or throw their voices out onto the plastic beach to be heard, but they seem to be out of thoughts and out of touch every day. Every day now. Ooh, oh, every day. Every day now. Ooh, no, every day. Yeah, every day just feels the same. Every day. Every day now. yes, so that was Jella, and yeah, I'm gonna play my next song because it's quite strange without an audience. I've got the birds actually. The birds are tweeting away. Speaking of tweets, I'm on Twitter. Don't use it a lot though, so maybe if I'm actually, this is pre-recorded, so I will be lurking by my phone for any comments, questions, bit of Q&A whilst this is happening. Just go down to the bottom and type away. Yeah, I'll answer anything really, and hopefully you're enjoying the sun as much as I am. And this next song is about my beautiful grandma, who is, well, nonna in Italian, nonna, grandma. And yeah, she's called Serafina Cipolla, and she's the most amazing story getting here really, because it was an arranged marriage with my nonno, Michele, and yeah, she didn't have a choice. As soon as they got married, they hopped on over to here to sell ice cream in Stoke-on-Trent. Unfortunately, their ice cream van isn't around anymore, but a bit of a shame really, because I used to love putting flakes in as a kid. And yeah, so I'm basically I've written this for Serafina, so it's called Palermo. And anyone's from Palermo, give us a thumbs up. Oh, I've forgotten to tune, yeah. There we go. It's beautiful by the sun, in the city of Palermo. Serafina feels so young, in a house made a century ago, where there's marble streets and the flowers grow from the balcony. Her marriage was arranged, yet she never complained about the freedom she needs. Let her go, Palermo, to a new world. Let her go, Palermo, to a new world, to a new world. It's beautiful by the night. Romance is busy in Palermo. Waxworks and candlelight send Serafina to Paradiso. She spends all her time worshipping Byzantine emperors. She hasn't got long to arabesque and belong to a chosen man. Make her go, Palermo, to a new world. Make her go, Palermo, to a new world, to a new world. Her dreams dreams begin to serpentine as a mountain gives her descent to breathe a new type of air, where she can be persuaded to live a new life. Let her go, Palermo, to a new world. Let her go, Palermo, to a new world. Let her go, Palermo, to a new world. Let her go, Palermo, Palermo. Yeah, so that was Palermo, which is the capital city of Sicily. Don't know what I was going to say there. Yeah, so yeah, you can either fly into Palermo or to Catania, right? So I flew in with my dad to Palermo, and we had the most amazing trip. So I've only been twice, you see, so yeah, I can remember both times really well. And the second time I went to Catania with Eleanor, and our first night was a bit of a noisy night, as the Sicilian builders were outside in the early hours of the morning, knocking bricks off and doing this and that and singing some nice Italian songs off the top of their lungs. But then there was one guy who had a bit of a whistle to him and started whistling this tune. So I actually thought it was quite good, and I recorded it secretly. But now it's not much of a secret, as I put it in this song. And it's called Golden Hour, which is basically about escaping these builders to get a bit of peace and quiet, really. So, yeah. What time do you call this? It's not even the break of dawn. One by one we start to whistle the official song of the day. There's no sleeping pattern that you can stick to. Really, you can hear them ringing the alarm bells of the city. Oh, this melodrama is still happening outside. This melodrama isn't here to hide, isn't here to hide. Oh, it's here to climb up on the mountainside. No fresh air right there. Give me somewhere to go before it gets dark. Under the skyline, now we're together. Heaven knows where we are forever, chasing the golden hour. Right on top of this building, we can watch the world walk by. without disturbing people and their privacy. All night, oh, this melodrama is still happening. Hello, melodrama. Here I climb above the skies and love this view that we hold. Oh, it's you that I want. You're the only one I just wanna hold. Here under the sun, here under the gold. You're the only one I just wanna hold. Here under the sun, here under the gold. You're the only one I just wanna hold. Here under the sun, here under the gold. Fresh air I give then. Oh, give me somewhere to go before it gets dark. Under the skyline, now we're together. Heaven knows where we are forever. Chasing the garden out. Yeah, so that was Golden Hour, and I'm going to now play a couple of songs off my album that has already been released. My first album called Jungle Kingdom, which you can either stream on Spotify and iTunes, or you can buy a CD, hey, got one here, off my website, which is bencipolla.com. If you fancy a signed copy, I'll put my gloves on and, you know, wash my hands and sign it for you. Put it in the post, first class. Yeah, and it would be a real help with putting raising money for the next album, which before this whole new way of life, I was going to be going to Sicily and doing the tour, and I would have already recorded the album by now, but hopefully the album will be recorded at some point in the next few months when everything will be a little bit back to normal. And yeah, so for now you can have a listen to a few of my Jungle Kingdom songs, which is with my 8-piece band, and I hope they're all having a great day as well. So I'm going to be doing 2 songs back to back here. First one is Cocoa Butterfly, and the next one is Better Place. And Better Place is also the soundtrack of my mate's YouTube channel, Liam Bedford. Subscribe to Liam Bedford, so yeah, check it out. As you could hear myself on repeat. Anyway, yeah, let's go. All right, Cocoa Butterfly. Her skin tastes of cocoa butter. She lives in a cocoon, and keeping a party local so she can wear her mother's shoes. She wears a curtain for her dress, hearing mama of distress as she bursts her treasure chest, making a mess so she can rest. When she's at her best, she evolves into a cocoa butterfly. Oh, there's a sparkle in her eye. She makes me wonder, why am I under her feathered wing of guidance? So I love her dearly, cocoa butterfly. Oh, there's a sparkle in her eye. She makes me wonder, why am I under her feathered wing of guidance? So I love her dearly, cocoa butterfly. Cocoa butterfly. Yeah. Make way for the stretching limo. She's no yoga fool. Yeah. Getting the men to bend over backwards and touch the ceiling with their shoes. Fly by a field on a wave, turn a wheel to the grave and sing by the doorbell. Now, fly by a field on a wave, turn a wheel to the grave and sing by the doorbell, cocoa butterfly. Oh, there's a sparkle in her eye. She makes me wonder, why am I under her wing of guidance? So I love her dearly, cocoa butterfly. Oh, there's a sparkle in her eye. She makes me wonder, why am I under her feathered wing of guidance? So I love her dearly, cocoa butterfly. Cocoa butterfly. Cocoa butterfly. Cocoa butterfly. Oh, cocoa butterfly. Oh, there's a sparkle in her eye. Yeah, she makes me wonder, why am I under her feathered wing of guidance? Oh, I love her dearly, cocoa butterfly. Oh, there's a sparkle in her eye. She makes me wonder, why am I under her feathered wing of guidance? So I love her dearly, cocoa butter, cocoa butter, cocoa butter, cocoa butter, cocoa butter, cocoa butter, yeah. Cocoa butter, cocoa butter, cocoa butter, cocoa butter, cocoa butter, cocoa butter, fly. Send me running into another nation where I will be welcomed and not feel too hungry. All in the same boat, befriending a storm. Yet our home is afloat from any rumor that is safe until I get there. The views I see are unforgettable, but when I rest from this despair and begin to be comfortable, I ride away from my hideaway, release the strain from the weight of the wave. Send me packing into another bedroom where I will be drawing my new desires in every corner of the room. On the wall I will hang every belonging that I have, with every worry I can't stand until I get there. The views I see are unforgettable, but when I rest from this despair and begin to be comfortable, I ride away from my hideaway, release the strain from the weight of the wave. Back to a better place for us, back to a better beat for my heart, back to a better place for us, back to a better beat for my heart, back to a better place for us, back to a better beat for my heart, back to a better place for us, back to a better beat for my heart, back to a better place for us, back to a better beat for my heart, back to a better place for us, back to a better beat for my heart, back to a better place for us, back to a better beat for my heart, back to a better place for us. There's no race to get there. The views I see are unforgettable, but when I rest from this despair and begin to be comfortable, I ride away from my hideaway, release the strain from the weight of the wave. I ride away, release the strain from the weight of the wave. Back to a better beat for us, back to a better place for my heart. Yeah, so there you have it. Couple of Jungle Kingdom songs there. And yeah, I hope everyone's in a better place, really, as yeah, we've gone through a lot over the past few months, and it's just, can't thank Manchester Jazz Festival enough for putting this on, because, you know, I haven't properly gigged in a while, and it's just been really refreshing, and I've absolutely loved it. So I'm going to play one more before the encore. So this song, during lockdown, I've been learning some Italian, actually, and because I can speak a little bit now, but this time last year I couldn't really say a lot apart from buongiorno and come stai, pizza, you know, all that. So yeah, I found a Sicilian poem online, and it translated basically that the Sicilian was frustrated not knowing how to speak English, and I'm pretty frustrated not how to speak Italian, but I'm getting there thanks to a few language apps and my dad, yeah, so this song is called Cicero, and the first verse is in Sicilian, and the second verse is in English, so, you know, bit of translation going on. Actually, it's not a translation. What am I on about? It's a completely different meaning, the second verse. So yeah, gosh, here we go. Su Milan sono rovinato. Sta lingua inglese con sta ciupadare. Quanto male fiori che ho provati, spartiti chi ti ancora a provare. Pila mi lingua, sono un avvocato, ma curi mura, posso ragionare. Picci sta maledetta lingua inglese, è fatta di papocce e male intesi. Su Milan io sono rovinato. Su Milan io sono rovinato. Su Milan io sono rovinato. Su Milan I carry a family with my surname. All I know is that they make people cry. How am I supposed to know how to pronounce things? Why don't I practice enough to really get by? And I always blame it, I'm not having enough spare time to really embrace line by line. If I speak to my nonna, surely she'll teach me how to strike up a conversation so easily. Oh, su Milan io sono rovinato. Su Milan io sono rovinato. Su Milan io sono rovinato. Su Milan su Milan sono rovinato. Do you want one more? Do you want one more? Hey. Hope you do. And hopefully I've got enough time. Yeah, I've got about 4 minutes. God, yeah. Whoa, what an experience this has been. Thanks so much to Manchester Jazz Festival, Steve and the team. They've just been absolutely amazing. They really have. And I was really gutted at the start to hear that the actual festival was cancelled in itself, but redemption, got it online and it's just as good to be honest. So thank you so much. And this has probably been the highlight of my year. So thank you all. Hopefully the album will be out in due course, and hopefully I'll be touring at some point in the near future, hopefully in a Sicilian ice cream van. That's the plan. And in the meantime, I'm hoping to release a few just singles as it is, that are sort of unrelated to this Sicilian project. But so yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Hopefully that will happen. So this last song is dedicated to my uncle Alfonso Cipolla, and he sadly passed away a couple of years ago now, and I miss him an awful lot. He looked after my Sicilian grandparents who are still alive today, and he was mainly a carer for them, and a part-time job. He worked at the Odeon, picking up the popcorn. So he used to take me as a kid. I used to watch a lot of great 3D movies like Avatar. I remember that. And he was a big Star Trek fan. So yeah, any Star Trek lovers You know what that means. And this one is for Alfie. It's called Trekking with the Stars. Cheers. He'll always be trekking with the stars, building battleships and taking us to the cinema. Always be trekking with the stars, building battleships and taking us to the cinema. He said one day you'll go far. Or focus on the people who you love by playing this guitar. You wouldn't want to get up behind those screens, playing those video games. Oh, where's the day gone? With my 3D glasses on, and the film's about to roll. Though we're chucking popcorn at the people talking at the front row, not knowing what's going on in the movie. He'll always be trekking with the stars, building battleships and taking us to the cinema. Always be trekking with the stars, building battleships and taking us to the cinema. Oh, wanna be cool with your uncle. Now, tell your kids in the playground you've seen the film before it's even out. Now, wanna be cool with your uncle. Just us in the audience, with no audience. Now he'll always be trekking with the stars, building battleships and taking us to the cinema. Always be trekking with those stars, building battleships and taking us to the cinema. Whoa, yeah. Building battleships. No, whoa, yeah. Building battleships. Whoa, yeah. Building ships for free, to free our minds from reality. And you'll see he'll be up there watching over me, and I'll always be checking with the sky to see if he'll send his cavalry for us to survive. The third world is on the line. He wouldn't tolerate the waste we throw away to the tide. Cheers, thanks a lot. Stay safe and have a nice ice bath, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Hi, I'm Babs. I've been a volunteer since 2010. I work as front of house for the Manchester Jazz Festival, which means that I'm the first person people see when they come in to the festival. My most memorable experience was when I was asked to work at the Midland Hotel for the popular afternoon teas, and I was really surprised when John Helliwell from Supertramp walked in, and it was great to catch up with him. So hope to see you in 2021. Bye!
Ben, that was absolutely marvellous. Thank you so much for pulling that together. I don't know what you thought, Deborah. I met Ben about a year ago. He came into the office to just say hello and have a chat. And when I heard his music, he really reminded me, his voice, of Ben Watt from Everything But the Girl. I don't remember that. And
I remember Ben Watt very well.
Yeah.
I've got his first album, Lucky.
Ben,
North Marine Drive, I think.
That's right. Yeah. Ben Cipolla. I'd never heard of him, and I thought that was amazing. You can sound like you're being inspired by someone you've never heard of. Ben, thank you so much, and do go and check out Ben's music if you want to hear more. I'm sure you do. Okay, next up, as part of day 3 of MJF 2020 even, it's Jazz Unlocked, and we're probably around about coming up to halfway through the festival maybe. Delighted now to reintroduce Ben Cottrell of FP Records, who's made 2 lovely programs for us looking at the various artists in the FP Records stable and how they're coping, how they're creating exciting new music in lockdown.
Hi, welcome to FP's broadcast for the Manchester Jazz Festival. I'm Ben Cottrell. I run FP Records, which is an independent label based in Manchester, where you kind of work with a range of artists around jazz, experimental and improvised music. And we're going to hear some music that kind of encapsulates all of that and more. Really exciting duo project from Gemma Bass and Graham South. Recorded live from their home in Chorlton in Manchester. So we'll have a chat a little about some of the music that we've heard after the music, but yeah, without further ado, here's the set. thanks very much, Gemma and Graham. That was a really cool set.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for doing it. So firstly, just kind of how's it going? How have you been finding it over the past few weeks?
Yeah, it's been okay. We're I think both of us felt lucky compared to what so many people are going through. We've just been in our nice house in Chorlton, Manchester, practicing, making bread, trying to keep out of everyone's way.
Yeah, usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been okay. It's felt like a treat in a way to have lots of time to practice. I think we're very lucky as musicians to kind of have an ongoing project that is just trying to figure out our instruments. So there's not been too much kind of twiddling of thumbs and being stuck with things to do. It's just we're very lucky to have those there. I know some musicians who've been in lockdown without their instruments, and I can imagine that's really tough. So we feel very lucky in lots of ways.
Also, from my point of view, I conveniently didn't get so good at my trumpet at age 17, like some people do, that I don't have anything left to figure out. So the tortoise route of trying to inch my way forward has helped. That I still feel like at age 36, I've got at least another 36 years to go of trying to figure out the trumpet. Yeah, because I know some people. We know some musicians that haven't touched it, and that's totally fair enough. Because with no concerts to play and no chance of playing in orchestras or bands, then it all feels a bit pointless. But trying to figure out what we're doing is it's been almost
feels like a good use of some of this time.
And also, like, I think for both of us, not feeling like we need to hit live stream and every day on Instagram, and which is totally cool when some people do, but the kind of the work that like this creative opportunity that we've got in all this time is more happening just by playing long notes.
Yeah. Well, I'm pleased that you did the live stream for us now. Yeah. Because it was really great. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, how has that been kind of the product of some of this time you've had, or is that kind of ideas that have been brewing for a little longer than that, or like how did you go about putting it together?
It was your idea to do something.
So yeah, it was I when we first talked about doing something for FP for to broadcast, I was I've been part of a few projects playing remotely, and everyone's doing different things, and that's been fun. But from my kind of compositional project point of view, I didn't really want to. I couldn't think of anything that would feel good or feel like it hadn't been covered already. But I do live with someone who's a really good improviser and musician. So, and actually, even though we both improvise and we both play a lot, we've not done a lot that's just duo improvisation before. We haven't. No, we haven't.
I don't think we ever have.
Yeah, not just us. So we thought let's have a go and do that, and so I suppose this ties into what the set that you just heard was. It starts or a few minutes in. There's a spiritual tune which is linked to my project, which is coming out in a few months' time on FP. With my quartet, and it's the tune "Nobody Knows the Trouble I See," and so we played around with that a little bit, kind of loosely improvised in and out, and then we also, one of the only other times that we've done playing, it was us two and our friend Marcus Farnsworth, who is an amazing singer. We did a set last year at Southall Music Festival playing folk songs, which I arranged and we improvised around, and we played the tune about halfway through that set. There's a tune called Lemedy or Lemady, depending on who you are, and we when we played the set with Marcus last year, we'd improvised around that. I didn't do an arrangement. I just said improvise around tonal center of A, and then Gemma wrote the piece that we finished with, and that kind of came into the set right at the end when we were just thinking about what we might do, and Gemma suggested this.
Yeah, so just before lockdown, again, it's actually linked with Southall Music Festival because we were due to be going this summer again, and so your album stuff came from The Child of Our Time that was in the festival, and the spirituals out of that became a piece. And then this year, we were all due to be playing Macmillan Seven Last Words, wasn't it?
Yeah, James Macmillan.
James Macmillan Seven Last Words. And so I had a go at writing a little string quartet that was sort of based on some ideas from that, just as a little project. And one of the movements was only for 2 instruments. It was for violin and viola. So we just had a little go at trying that, the two of us, and it felt like a nice way to finish. So it was cool to get that in as well.
Yeah. So we actually, it was when I decided that we'd do a duo project, I did what I quite often do when I'm working with improvising musicians of thinking like, oh, okay, I'll write this and I'll write that and I'll write these little hooks and words, and gradually, and it's not just through laziness, though partly, you realise that the music's going to breathe better if you just play, and it's much the same with my quartet. Can write some things down for them. Probably won't play them anyway. So,
I think you're right. I remember you were both involved in the new singing project that I did for the Jazz Festival a few years ago. I remember kind of going to the pub with you when I was writing it and talking about how I was having a lot of difficulty notating all this string ensemble to make it sound like it was improvised. And you were like, why don't you just let them improvise? And yeah, that was really good advice as a kind of performer to a composer. Well, former composer, all round musician. Yeah, I think that was really good.
Yeah, I think there's duty to create the setting. I think if you've put certain things in place, then people will, and you trust the musicians, you know who you're working with. And I'm thinking, it makes me think of on my album with the quartet, there's one tune that Steal Away that I feel like I did just enough as a composer, and then said to Rich Jones, the pianist, how about you do something, and I kind of mentioned a couple of things, and then suddenly he did exactly what I'd had in my head. Like it wasn't like he kind of just did something and I thought, oh yeah, I'll have that. It was exactly what I was hearing, but he communicated. And so I think it's about creating the setting to do it. So
and being clear in your intentions, I guess. It's the same with any kind of composing. Yeah. Because
I have been in improvised situations in the past where you think, oh right, we're not really on the same wavelength, and you try and play with someone, and then you can tell they're not really listening, or they're just doing their thing, and it doesn't work. So we had walks where we kind of thought, what do you think we should do? Oh, we should kind of do this kind of thing. But also we've heard each other practicing for the last.
We don't always want to go the same way.
No. Oh, I didn't mean that. No, I was talking about in preparation for the gig, for the gig where we've just mentioned little bits here and there.
Our actual walk.
No, not our actual walk. That's a different thing. That's
it's the other side of lockdown bliss.
Yeah, but we've heard each other sing for the last 8 weeks or whatever as well, all the time, and so have our neighbours, who are amazing.
That's interesting, actually. I mean, you were talking about kind of having trust in the musicians that you're playing with, and obviously you know each other so well personally as well as musically, like you've just said, and obviously kind of as a married couple trust each other implicitly in that sense. But you said also that you never played as a duo before, so how did that kind of sense of trust in a different aspect of your kind of relationship? Did that kind of trust translate to the musical relationship, and was it kind of different to your trust with other musicians that you both regularly play with?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think we're very lucky to have a lot of musicians in our little performing making circles that we trust very much, and mostly those who, if they break out of what you're expecting, you still know that they'll take you somewhere that's as good, if not better, than where you were hoping to go. And so we're very, very, I think we're spoiled with that, with the musicians that we get to work with anyway. I definitely had a moment in the set where I knew that I'd diverted from the plan, but only because I'd got distracted just listening to and I was meant to have come in and I didn't. But it was nice and I had to give myself a bit of a talking to, because it's like, I know that it doesn't matter, because I know that even if I don't know where he is, he's going to know where I am, and I know that we'll find something and it will be okay. So in that sort of like practical sense, it was nice just to be able to.
Yeah, and I find it's really liberating because we both play in completely different settings where you have to play exactly the right notes at the right time together, and so it's quite liberating to be like, oh, I thought she was going to come in, but she hasn't. But that's all right. I'll just wait till she does, and I'll play a bit more, and then that means that something happens that you never thought would happen, and so it's interesting.
I'm glad people will have heard the gig before they hear it. So otherwise they'll be like, is it this bit? Is it this bit? I wonder if it's this bit. Why should we play?
But yeah, I think I'm enjoying that more and more, improvising, just it being something else. That I love playing in a section and playing in time and in tune together and all that, but just saying like that's not what we're thinking about right now is great.
Yeah.
Do you think that all that stuff that you do, playing with orchestras, playing in kind of really heavily composed chamber settings and big band sections, whichever kind of context it is, like, how does that kind of fit into what you're doing when you're improvising? Like, do you see them as completely separate, or kind of everything that you do is just part of your whole wider personality as a musician?
I don't know if we have the same answer.
I wonder. Can I go? Yeah. Before it falls out of my head. I have realised that, well, I think that I'm better at sight reading and playing an orchestra and learning things quickly since I started improvising. It's still a relatively new thing for me. And I think part of it is because you're exercising a muscle, which I never realised was so important, which is the kind of I don't know there's probably a fancy word for it, but it's like imagining something before it happens. So I was always taught as a kid to read ahead in the music, but nobody ever said imagine ahead. So you see the notes, but to really hear them first makes it so much easier to then create them. It's like you've been through the whole process. You've seen it, you've heard it, what it's going to be, and then you make the thing. And I think you're doing that so much when you're improvising, but it also translates over to when you're playing Beethoven. Like, just as a muscle to exercise, I think it's really helpful in both settings.
Yeah.
Hope so anyway.
And then the other way around is, I think there's no way that it hasn't seeped in years of breathing together and playing with people. There's no way that it doesn't, and I know I was saying it's liberating not to worry about it, but there's no way, like, there's probably certain moments when we kind of feel that natural rhythm. I think that's when going between playing in big bands or pop things, anything with groove, to going to playing in an orchestra. Especially if I've not played in an orchestra for a few weeks, I find it amazing skill that orchestras have to play together, even though there's no discernible beat from the conductor usually, and everyone just knows that's where we play, and it changes from orchestra to orchestra. sometimes it's a bit frightening when you think, okay, and then after a few minutes, you usually get a sense of it, and you just kind of join in that set. And so I think that kind of feeling of playing together is going to make its way into an improvised setting, that kind of natural kind of
the kind of Sixth Sense thing.
Yeah,
as
interesting.
it's
I like
all of the palette of music that we've been really lucky to experience in our lives. I think that's everybody has that, whether they're a trained musician or not, and whatever your training is, or whatever your experience is, you carry it with you, and so it's going to feed your imagination as you're making something.
Yeah, I like that idea, and the idea of training different muscles and using different muscles in kind of different settings. I think that's really interesting. Maybe if we talk a little bit about some of the projects that you're both kind of involved in. I mean, Graham, you mentioned about your album before. We will get onto that in a sec. But Gemma, I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about the Vonnegut Collective that you co-founded with a colleague from the BBC Philharmonic as well. So kind of someone who's had a similar background in terms of training to you. But can you talk a little bit about that and the inspiration behind it and what kind of stuff you get up to within that group?
Yeah, definitely. So it's Gary Farr, one of the trumpet players from BBC Phil, and it's our 5th anniversary next Friday, and we were due to have a big performance down in London, a premiere of a new work that's been kind of 2 years in the making, which is by Tullis Rennie, and it's based on the Thomas Adès piano quintet, which we spent 2 weeks rehearsing, 48 hours over 2 weeks rehearsing back in January, and Tullis collected all that up and has made a new piece out of that experience of us trying to learn the piece. So sadly that's not quite gone to plan because of COVID-19, so it's all on hold. But sort of more broadly, the collective it's mainly about encouraging people to engage with new music in lots of different ways. So every project is different. So that Adès one is kind of artistically representing the rehearsal process and then performing that, so that when the audience then hear the Adès, they're sort of on the same page as we are. They've been through the journey with us, and so it with the hope that it might make a connection or a more personal connection. So things like that. So we do community composition projects. We do a lot of improvising, and all sorts of stuff, bits and bobs. But it's named after Kurt Vonnegut because of a letter that the author wrote to some school kids, which essentially said, "Do art. Start today and do it for the rest of your lives. Not for fame or fortune, but to make your soul grow and find out what's inside you." And we thought that was quite a good message to keep at the heart of what we were doing. So we try to be true to that. Yep.
Sounds pretty good as a kind of
I'm
mission
Graham's
statement.
managed to get involved.
I managed to shoehorn my way in fairly early on. Wrote some pieces and played a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun.
I mean, I've seen a fair few of the projects you've done over the years, and it's always really inspirational music, and the process, like you say, like quite often with a lot of the pieces you can kind of see the process, whether that's through kind of graphic scores or you kind of see the musicians interacting, especially with some of the more improvisatory stuff. But when obviously everything is kind of back to a more normal schedule of performances, I highly recommend going to check out anything that Vonnegut Collective are involved with. And Graham, on your album, how's that been going? Like, obviously, I've been working pretty closely with for the FP release, and I mean, I'm biased, but it sounds great. I'm really excited to kind of put it out into the world. And yeah, how like talk about where the inspiration from. I mean, you touched on it before with the use of the spirituals that are featured in your set as well. But...
Yeah, so there's the 5 virtuals that are in Michael Tippett's Child of Our Time, and we were playing that. I was in the orchestra playing those at Southern Music Festival in Nottinghamshire, and Marcus, who runs it, who's the singer we were talking about playing with earlier, said, do you want to do a jazz gig at the festival? And I thought, I don't really want to just play a jazz gig. It doesn't seem the right, because him and Jamie Campbell, the other musical director, they program everything so carefully. So I had a little think and thought, actually, if I link it up to something in the program, and those tunes are just great. They stand alone. You can just play the tune and it would be enough, I think. And then so I picked some people that I've played with a lot. In fact, it's funny because it feels like a completely different band, but it's actually just Johnny Hunter's quartet, but instead of a saxophone, there's a piano. And so it's 3 of the same members, but that obviously that instrument and the person, Richard Jones, changes the sound completely. So yeah, like I was saying, we wrote some arrangements and we played them, and we had a really lovely gig. This was 2018, so we decided to do it a little bit more. And it's another thing that has been affected by the current situation. I think just like I've been really lucky that I've been playing in other people's groups for years, people who've been organised and done the hard thing, which you know only too well, of running an ensemble and all the hassle that creates just to try and get something artistically under your own name. And I was like just about getting brave. I went down and had a really helpful conversation with Kim McCary in London in mid-February, and I was like, right, I'm gonna start hustling for gigging and try and tie it in with the album coming out and all that kind of, and then suddenly everything has been put on hold.
How have you? Sorry to interrupt. Like that's kind of, as you say, that's a similar situation to the project Gemma just mentioned with the Vonnegut. Like both of them have been kind of really a long time preparation, and suddenly when it's coming to the kind of, you know, almost to the summit, kind of the rug swept from beneath your feet.
Yeah.
Kind of, how has that been from a kind of almost like emotional point of view? If that's kind of not too.
I think it's for me it's frustrating because it was I was a lot further behind than Gemma, than the Vonnegut project, which is everything was in the diary set to go, and mine was more like a personal battle of kind of actually being like, right, how do I put a tour together? How do I try and find some funding? And so having finally found the motivation to do that, and then realizing that that money is looking like it's not going to be there funding wise for a while, because rightly so, the Arts Council have been helping people out that have lost all their work, and so that for me it's a bit frustrating, but I find it in the context of everything that's going on, it's like, you know, could be worse. I'll just put it on ice, and it's there, and the album's done, which is great. So that'll get released, and it won't be with a tour this year. We're going to put it out, drip feed it, and then all the fans of the album will come and see the gigs when we can do them again.
We'll see when the next available date at Wembley is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, similar. I think the kind of the broader context gives a good sense of perspective on things. But yeah, it was. I found it quite tough. Yeah, like Graham said, we were all set to go, and the funding was all in place, and it's been this real sort of journey to get everything together and to get some of my favourite musicians together, and the rehearsals have gone so well. See, that's the thing as well with us, because of the trajectory, because we had the rehearsals, and anyway, it might be that we don't play the piece again for a year. So it's a strange, and also I don't know, I feel like you work so hard on these things and then suddenly, literally overnight, it's just gone. And because it's nowhere near as important as people's health and safety and lives and all of that. So, so it took, I had a couple of weeks of it being sort of a background project in my mind of reassuring myself that it's still important, like this work that we do creatively, making stuff, being artists. We're not key workers. We're not, out doing the most important things in terms of saving people's lives every day when there's a global pandemic. But it is still important, and it will still happen, and it will still, all of that work and energy and passion and the belief in making something that's worthwhile, that still has to be there. So
nice.
We'll just see.
I think that's a really nice sentiment to wrap up, actually. So yeah, unless there's any kind of final things that you want to add.
Just thanks, it's really fun.
On FP Records, you can go to grahamsouth.com, and that will forward to a pre-order page, if I sort this out in time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go. So thank you very much, Gemma and Graham. And yeah, hope to see you in real life soon. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Ollie. If I could name one thing that I loved about volunteering at the festival, it would be sneaking around the backstage with tons of incredible artists while just snacking all day. In 3 words, I guess I'd describe volunteering at the festival as exciting, unpredictable, and my favourite memory would my favourite part of being part of the festival would probably be just the team and how closely knit everybody is. It's a real pleasure to be part of.
New improvised music under lockdown, and thanks to Ben and the whole team at FP and Daniela for pulling those programs together. It's such a joy and such a great contribution to the music community in Manchester and the UK. That's great.
Yeah,
insight.
Daniela's part of Muchie's just, and she's a total driven angel that gets things done. And I think it's so difficult these days to run a label. This is a Manchester-based label. It's doing a lot for local talent, and hats off, because it's a difficult time to try and financially make a label work. So yeah, brilliant.
Great.
And we've still got quite a lot coming up after the break. We're having a break now. It's my thing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But we have finger sandwiches and tea.
I've got yesterday's left in this mug, actually. But also talking of what were we talking of? Well, we weren't talking about, we were talking about everything and nothing, as we normally are, Deborah, or I am.
Well, the concerts, I think it's good to concerts that we've got coming up.
We're back at 5, but let's look forward to just a couple of highlights from tonight, Deborah. We've got a couple of live music performances, haven't we? Yes, we have, Steve. Of course we have. We've got the amazing works. Now, this is a beautiful piece of work. It's Mike Walker's going to be talking about it as part of the chat that we have with our composers. And this is a complete performance of the piece. So we've got that to look forward to. And then later on, the piece, the Brickup Commission from last year with Nani and Abel Archway.
And these are all MJF commissions, aren't they? These are all pieces that came into being because of the commission scheme, which is really important. And I'm also looking forward to the future of live music in lockdown talk, again, because I think this is a chance to look at how we want to set the future out. The UK is not renowned for brilliant official support from the government. They do their best, but I think there's we've got to look at lots of different ways to financially make it work for the music industry. So this is a good opportunity to hear how people are feeling about what's happening during lockdown, and how you know, people involved in music, sound technicians, light technicians, as well as musicians, are all getting on.
And you, the listener, the viewer, have a chance to throw questions in through the chat. So we'll tell you how to do that just before the program. So do.
I think that's really important, the exchange. And so, yeah, get some questions ready. You know, be part of. Got to say, what are your experiences? What's important to you?
Jazz Unlocked. We'll see you very soon.